Should get. Happy Wednesday, everybody! Welcome to the South Florida Tribune Podcast. Am I loud enough? I don't know. If you have a hearing aid, you can hear me. If you don't have, you still hear me anyway. My name is Scott Morgan, off the Motor City Madmouth. Nothing never changes. Maybe the hat does. Really? Seriously? Really? Why am I wearing that hat? Because I'm not talking sports. I'm talking with somebody far prettier than sports. Her name is Barbara Feller, a realtor. We'll get to Barbara in just a moment. But this show is presented by Hockey Operations LLC. And the South Florida Tribune, just so you know, is a publishing company. We publish my book, Lessons from the Microphone. We have an online publication with a broadcast division for which you are seeing right now tonight. Tonight's show is about, I am pleased to be joined by Barbara Feller, local realtor in the Coral Springs area. We'll get to her in just a moment. But I want to let everybody know that what we're going to be talking about on the show is she's going to give you tips about buying property, a little bit in the area, and we'll be able to go all kinds of things with Barbara. Now, I want to tell you that Barbara happens to be in my Masterminds virtual networking group, which is 2 Thursdays a month. I think we do it first and third Thursday, and Lois Margolin's in charge of all of that for us. So, Lois, shout out to you tonight. And I met Barbara because she on social media started following me everywhere on Instagram, Twitter, and all that. So somebody out there knows this thing called social media. Why not go ahead and give her a shot on the big show? That's what we're doing. When you go out there and show that you exist on this platform, you get noticed and you get recognized. Barbara caught my attention, and that's why she's out here right now on the big show. Doubleheader tonight, Sports Exchange at 9 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time. We have a great show lined up. Hope you can join us for that one. This is the first of two. Barbara, with no hesitation, welcome to the big show, South Florida Tribune Podcast. Anything, first of all, what I want you to do at the beginning, or do it again, is I want everybody know how they can get a hold of you, phone number, and all that business. Go ahead.
Okay. Again, Barbara Feller, I am so honored and humbled to be with you, Scott, this evening. It is quite the honor. It's my big podcast debut, I will say. So I'm a residential realtor. I serve Broward and South Palm Beach County. I am always happy to entertain any and every real estate question that you might have. And as you see, my name and contact number is showing in this little circle. So my phone number, 954-816-4900. Please reach out to me at any time with real estate related needs, questions, curiosities that you might have. I'm always happy to help.
And she'll mention that phone number later in the broadcast as well. Barbara, first of all, why don't you let everybody have a little bit of a basic introduction about you? Tell us more about Barbara Feller, the realtor on the big show.
Here we go. So I've been living in South Florida for almost 30 years. I'm licensed as a real estate salesperson also for almost 30 years. I absolutely love the work that I do. I'm very passionate, working alongside my clients every step of the way as they begin the significant journey, both financially and emotionally, making a real estate decision, whether you're buying or selling, making a move. It can be emotional, stressful, exciting, traumatic, all those emotions all at the same time. And I work alongside my clients, making sure that we have an easy as possible, stress-free and fun journey as my clients are making a move, a real estate move, whether they're buying or selling. I work hard to meet my clients' goals and exceed their expectations. I bring to the table strong negotiation skills, my expert marketing, impeccable attention to detail, strong communication skills, and bonus, 30 plus years prior to working as a residential realtor as a financial analyst, which was my career before embarking upon my residential real estate work that I do now full-time as a realtor. And again, I love what I do, and I'm always happy to help. My clients have all come from referrals, repeat sources, and not only are they clients.
Well, I'm sure we'll have Barbara back in just a moment, but there's a little bit of an overview of Barbara as we go here. Just an updated score here. The Florida Panthers and the Toronto Maple Leafs, it is 1-0. We are in at the end of the first period as well. So as we get ready to go tonight, we'll talk about our lineup. Barbara Feller is about to join us back again. Obviously, you had a little bit of a tough connection there. Barbara, welcome back. Just
Thank
giving
you.
everybody a Panthers update. No big deal. That's all you missed. Go ahead, proceed. So continue on.
So that's what I've got. So again, always happy to help.
Okay, well, let me give you a little bit other information about Barbara. So you know you're dealing with a very credible individual. In 2023, she was a top producer for Fathom Fort Lauderdale, and also 24, she was a Q4 top producer for Fathom Fort Lauderdale. The woman has some good credentials. I encourage everybody in the chat room or via email, and if you have any questions, we'll forward them on to Barbara as well. Glad to have you. Good little overview with you. So let's talk about some of the basic particulars. First of all, Florida and the population growth where people are moving from. South Florida is the third largest growing metro in the state. Give us the reasons why it is.
So we live in an absolutely beautiful state. It is the third most populous state in our great country. And the question is, why are people moving here? We have the recent statistic is approximately 900 to 1,000 people move into our beautiful state every day. As Scott mentioned, the Fort Lauderdale, Miami, West Palm Beach metro is the third largest growing metro in the state of Florida. People are coming to Florida from New York, California, New Jersey, as well as internationally. But the question is, why are so many people moving here? First and foremost, our weather is beautiful. And the average temperature in Florida is 73 degrees. We average between 230 and 250 days of sunshine, hence the Sunshine State. We have no state income taxes. We're one of just 7 states in the country without a state income tax. Our opportunities here are tremendous. Our job growth rate is higher than the national average. We have an incredible state university system with one of the top rated universities in the country being the University of Florida. Go Gators, got to throw that in there. And we're a very diverse state, diverse culturally, varied ethnic backgrounds, and a large percentage of foreign-born residents. And we also have distinct politics. So we have people that move to our state because our politics align with their own beliefs. On the same side, as much as we have people migrating into our state, we do have people that are choosing to leave the state of Florida. However, we do have a greater in-migration than those exiting the state. But why are people leaving Florida? First of all, I said our wonderful weather. Along with that wonderful weather, unfortunately, we've got hurricanes. Last year, as you know, the state was impacted by 2 to 3 fairly significant hurricanes, more on the West Coast. This year, the predictions are up to 17 named storms, 9 potentially becoming hurricanes. So obviously, it's something that we will more likely than not be dealing with somewhere in the state of Florida. Our housing costs are up, as they are in most places in the country, but Florida has really seen a significant increase in housing costs. Other weather-related issues, we have prediction of a high seaweed bloom this year, which litters our beaches and make them kind of smelly and can impact some people with respiratory issues. So it's something that we also deal with. We've had an unusual dry season this year, so it lends itself to some concern about water shortages. And I mentioned politics as to why some people are moving into our state. Politics is also a reason why some people are leaving our state. If politics and policies don't align with people's individual views, and they have the flexibility to make a move to a state where they're more comfortable politically and politics more aligned with their views. But clearly we have more reasons that drive people into our state as opposed to those that are moving out of our state.
Let me tell you, if you think I'm shoveling snow again and Santa Claus is Jewish, I am not doing it. I don't need to drive on the ice. No, thank you very much. And I can tell you, and I know that this isn't something that we're going to talk about as far as our conversation, but I can tell you, for those individuals that move to Miami and you're looking for a high rise, it's a lot of money down there. There's a lot of money down in the Miami area, even though that's not the area that you cover. But let's not kid yourself. You're looking for, I can tell you how many great millionaires have moved there. I like where we're at here in the Broward County, Palm Beach County area, because it's a lot more centrally located to a lot of things. Anyway, but Miami is really known for South Beach. Anyhow, that many years ago, and I can tell you, they used to have that movie called Spring Break that was over at Fort Lauderdale Beach, and I used to watch that movie all the time. And that restaurant, the Elbow Room was always in it. It was just a great movie to watch. So if you're looking to get an idea what South Florida is all about, it's one thing. But now the biggest kept secret that few people realize is this. When you go west in the Coral Springs, Parkland area, this is a very nice family oriented area. This tends to get overshadowed by the Pompano beaches, the Fort Lauderdales, and so forth. Deerfield Beach is where I happen to live, and then in West Palm Beach as you go up the road. But when you go west, I think those are some of the most one of the nicer areas, and I love Coral Springs. I enjoy Deerfield Beach. I actually in the Quiet Waters area as well. So when you look at things and put them in their perspective, like come on, for all you movie buffers out there, who wasn't watching Spring Break many years ago? I enjoyed it, but I never participated in it. No, no way. I was out there in the blue collar area just shoveling snow, doing whatever I could to go out there and cover sporting events that they're all only been in the business 45 years anyway. So what's the difference? So we're going to get off topic for a moment, and I want to ask you a couple of questions. Okay, you said you're originally from Nassau County. Is that correct?
Yes, but it's been quite some time.
Oh, so what? You were there, right? Everybody comes from someplace,
Absolutely.
right?
I'm one of those people that moved to Florida from New York.
All right, well, yeah, but that's a different animal. You know, you're not in New York City here in the island. Really? Seriously, really? That's one of my favorite words. I'm not going to trademark it because that's too expensive. I work too hard to trademark the Motor City Man Mouth. I'm too old to try to trademark anything that may be trademarked anyway. So you're obviously in Nassau County. So I have a question for you. Okay.
Yes.
Were you ever were you a New York Islanders fan?
So, my family moved out of New York when I was quite young. So it was before I
Okay.
had an affinity for any team. It just wasn't, I was still a little kid. So,
Okay. So are you a New York? So I'm assuming that you're not a New York Islanders fan. So I have to assume you're a New York Florida Panther fan, right? Or if you're
I
a fan
am.
of anybody.
I,
Okay.
I am.
So you had your see tonight is your first podcast, and last year they won their first Stanley Cup. So there's a couple firsts here tonight on the South Florida Tribune podcast. Her first podcast, they won their first Stanley Cup, and me, well, what can I say? My
I'm right up
first
there with the
experience.
Florida Panthers.
There you go. That's okay. A lot of people in this area are Florida Panthers people. Me personally, being from Motown, those individuals don't have to tell them what my allegiances are. I worked with the Panthers before, enjoyed my experience with the COVID-19 season, a very big challenging experience. Appreciated the year I was there. I happen to move around a lot, so I'm not the most stationary target on the planet. Let everybody know that I am planning to go to Europe with my wife at the end of June, and we'll be there through the first week of July, and we're going to be going to Europe, taking a trip to Iceland, England. We're going to be going out to the Netherlands, Belgium, and where's the other one? Well, Netherlands, Belgium. Katie, what's the other one? I'm drawing a blank. We got a couple. Anyways, well, we got Iceland, Norway. There we go. I knew I got them all. So three of those, Iceland, and then of course England. Great stuff. But here we are talking about real estate, and I'm enjoying it heck out of it. So I just was curious. You know, everybody that comes from upstate New York, you go out there and say, "Are you an Islanders fan?" Everybody's familiar with Dennis Potvin. I met the guy many years ago. He actually was an announcer for the Florida Panthers at one particular point too. I met him, one of the classiest guys on the planet. So as we go through the show a little bit here, I want to reiterate that this South Florida Tribune podcast is presented by Hockey Operations LLC. My good friend Mike Santos, who does the Sports Exchange on Thursday, is sponsoring this show tonight. So let's talk about the housing inventory over the recent years. Please give me more details.
Okay, so first I want to share at a national level. The United States has experienced an inventory shortage since the Great Recession, being 2008 and 2009, when the real estate market kind of fell out. And the shortage still remains. So during the last 14 plus years, builders did not construct homes to meet with the housing demand in our country. We feel that in Florida. We feel that in probably most states in our country. There's thoughts, and in recent times, we've seen a little bit of softening of the real estate market. So there's been the sentiments out there, are we headed for a real estate crash? Well, this is a lesson of economics 101. Our supply is still low and demand is still high. So the economists who study the housing market conditions do not expect any sort of housing market crash in 2025 or beyond. Again, basic economics, supply simply does not meet with the demand. So on a national level, that's just a very global look as to what's happening. But the question is what's happening in the real estate market in Florida. So in the last 10 years, property values in the state of Florida have doubled. A significant percentage of that increase we experienced during the COVID years, as we all know. And before I share any more information, my line that I always say is that real estate is hyper local. And I'll use the analogy to the weather. When we want to find out what's going on with the weather, we don't turn on the national news and listen to a report that says it's going to be in the United States, it's going to be 75 degrees and partly cloudy today. We look at the local weather to see what's happening in our city, the area in which we live. So it's the same thing with real estate. When you turn on the news, there's all sorts of headlines that housing values are going up, prices are pulling back, and that's a very global statements that are made about real estate. But what really happens is what is happening in your area, not necessarily your county that you live in, your city, but your neighborhood, your community, your condo building, your townhouse community, your gated single family home community. So when you look at real estate, you have to look at what's happening where you live and where you may be going to. That's what really matters. In recent times, we have seen, like I mentioned, a little bit of a softening of the real estate market. So if you recall back during the height of our COVID years, 2021, 2022, home inventory was at a shortage. We measure inventory in months of inventory, and we were at 1.5 months of inventory homes available. A balanced market is 3 months of inventory, and we are slowly shifting to a more balanced and even in some areas more of a buyer's market. There are more homes on the market right now than there were last year, than there were 2 and 3 years ago during the height of COVID. So it's impacted what we're seeing out there in the community. So just to share some very specific numbers, for example, in Broward County, if we look at 3-bedroom homes priced between $500,000 and $750,000, today there's 14 homes available for sale using those parameters. A year ago, there were 1,000. So it's a 40% increase in homes available for sale. Palm Beach and Miami have very similar statistics, also in and around that 40% increase in homes available for sale. So it's a little bit softening of the market. It's a little bit more of a shift toward a buyer's market and a little bit more favorable for buyers that are out there. We are seeing the same type of inventory available in the condo market, and even to a significantly greater extreme. So, in Florida, we were impacted by the unfortunate collapse of the Champlain Towers in Miami. It's created significantly more requirements on condominium associations, work that they need to do to make sure condos are structurally sound. There's a lot going on politically that's impacting the condo market and our snowbirds, Canadians that come and own condos here in our community. And we see, as I said, that example that I gave for single family homes being 40% more inventory on the market. For condos, it's about 60% more inventory on the market. We have condos, beautiful condos, that are sitting on the market available for sale for 11 plus months. So, we've experienced some change. The real estate market is always shifting and pivoting, and we just have to remain very, very vigilant. You rely on a capable, competent realtor to be very vigilant as to what's going on in the real estate market, so that you're guided properly as you're making any sort of housing decision.
Well, there's an activity in the chat room. Brian Pettit says good evening, and he says, "Wow, it means you learned something." Yeah, Zara. There you go. You're impacting it. There you go. Ready? And as this show continues to go on, it'll pick up as we go along. But bear in mind, just because they don't comment in the chat room doesn't mean they're not obviously listening wherever they're at on their mobile devices as well. So, Brian, glad to have you in here with us. Well, I'm going to ask you a question which just actually to me occurred to me, and I'll be mentioning it a little bit later. I'm not going to get political at all, but with the recent situation with the United States and Canada and a 70% decrease in travel between now and then. I'm not going to get political. Do you think that's going to affect the real estate market a little bit going
So
forward? Because there
I,
is a high transplant area. And I know the Hollywood area, since I used to live in Hollywood Beach, was a very heavy Canadian area. And go ahead. Because I
so
just wondered
I
about this.
think that is one of the factors that plays into what we're seeing in the condo market, particularly.
Okay.
And we have a significant increase in condo inventory available for sale.
Okay.
And I think we're in a little bit of a tenuous and a little bit of an unknown situation right now, and I think a lot of people are waiting to see how all of this is going to unfold in the short term, and hopefully we'll see some change in that condo market. There are desperate sellers out there, and there are opportunities for buyers, at this time.
Great answer. Okay. Well, that's it. We're going to go to a station break. Candy Eppling's going to give me a break while I get a little something to drink.
The South Florida Tribune Publishing Company published a book called Lessons from the Microphone, Tuning into the Enduring Wisdom of Visionary Leaders. It is written by our host, Scott, the Motor City Madmouth Morganroth. Talks about his 40-plus years in the industry and how it has changed and evolved. Get your copy today. Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Kindle, Google, or Apple Books. There's also a link on our website, www.southfloridatribune.com, where you can get a link to this book and a plethora of great content. Go check it out. You see the little red subscribe button in that lower right-hand corner. That means you have not subscribed to our YouTube channel. I honestly don't know what you're waiting for. Just subscribe. You like to listen to podcasts, you can find us wherever you get your podcasts. If you want to sponsor a show like tonight we have presented by Hockey Operations LLC, call Scott. And you can advertise 954-304-4941. Or if you want to be a guest or have topic ideas, you can always email us at southfloridatribune@gmail.com. Back to you, Scott.
All right. For you hockey fans out there, update 13:04 left, second period. Florida Panthers, your Florida Panthers, by the way, leading the Toronto Maple Leafs 2-0. If they win this game, the Panthers will be up 3-2, and they'll play game 6 in Sunrise in a couple of days. Don't have it in front of me, but just giving those Panther fans that are taking their time to watch there a little bit of an update. Brian Pettit says they're going to build 150 houses near my house. There you go. So obviously it's growing, and he happens to be out in the South Carolina area as well. So obviously there's a growth. I know there's a big growth in Vegas for a while. I used to live in the Arizona market. There was a time when I actually contemplated Vegas, but the reason I came here was because my parents lived here as well. And of course, there is no state income taxes, and we are going to be talking about that later on tonight's edition of the Sports Exchange as well. A few other things I want to get to. Once again, my name is Scott Morganroth, Motor City Madmouth. You're listening to watching the South Florida Tribune podcast. We're an online publication. We are an actually publishing company and a broadcast division for which you see and hear all over the world. So again, I'm pleased to have Barbara. And met her through the Chamber of Commerce of Coral Springs. A few other questions I want to talk about. You alluded to, and now we're going to get to it, Barbara. Property values in Florida over the recent years. Please elaborate.
Well, so as I mentioned, over the last 10 years, we have seen a doubling of property values in the state of Florida. It has been, which is a wonderful thing for homeowners. It has made buying a bit challenging, especially first-time home buyers. It's that entry level to get into what a first home buyer dream level has been a bit challenging. But with all the information that I've shared, it begs the question: if I'm looking to buy real estate, buy or sell, what do you do? So let me share some pointers. Most important, you have to make sure that you're aligning yourself with very capable, competent professionals to work alongside you during the home buying journey, whether you're buying or selling property. Of course, that means a knowledgeable realtor that works in this profession full time, has their finger on the pulse as to what's going on in the market, is well aware of all the documents and contracts that are involved with the buy or sale of real estate. Also, a mortgage broker or lender to guide you, and a financial advisor to make sure you're making the right financial decision that's in line with your means. And just to share some crazy statistics, in Broward County, there's approximately 37,000 realtors. In Miami-Dade, 42,000 realtors. In Palm Beach, 30,000 realtor, give or take a few. But this is about one realtor for every 50 people that live in each one of these counties. So when you are choosing a realtor, choose wisely and make sure that you're working alongside that somebody that is, like I said, finger on the pulse of what is going on in the market and is well aware of all the contracts and documents involved with this significant decision that you make.
Great
So
point. Those realtors better get that square footage right. Many years ago, when I purchased property up in Michigan, up in the mid-Michigan area, I had a realtor botch the square footage up, and it really impacted the value of the house for sure. So that stuff does happen out there, doesn't it?
absolutely. And, we have public property platforms, and where the real estate information is readily available, where you can always get the square footage of a home, the lot that the property, if it's a single family home, the lot that the property is on. So we have property appraiser websites that you can go to. Of course, there are, on occasion, that information may not be 100% accurate, but then you can turn to the homeowner or the realtor, obviously, to get the accurate information so that you're making the right decision based on the size of the home.
Yeah, I'll give you a stat to talk about. I like this one, Barbara. I'm sure you've seen this all too many times. Ryan says he got his house in 2017 was 112 grand. Now it would be $250,000. I'd say he made a pretty good investment there, didn't he, Barbara?
Absolutely. And I had commented over the last 10 years, property values have more than doubled in the state. So you did good, Brian.
Great stuff. Brian does come on our shows every once in a while too. He joins the country club on Fire Up on Thursday nights. You can hear him, but he's also very efficient in terms of what he does out in South Carolina. We're glad to have him part of the team, but he's a very busy guy, and we enjoy a lot of the people that are the fans that we have that we've built with the company. There are a couple more questions for you in general terms. What is happening in South Florida real estate market today, both homes and condos?
Well, so I shared some of that information. The condo market, as I said, is not the strongest right now. It's very favorable for buyers. Again, we've been impacted a little bit by what took place as a result of the unfortunate collapse of the towers on Miami Beach.
Right.
The Canadians that are here that are uncomfortable with politics, what's going on. So there's a little bit more flooding to the market of condos because of that. As far as single family homes, over the last 10 years, prices have gone up tremendously, but we are seeing a little bit softening of the market right now. So there is a little bit more buying opportunities, but still supply is not at the levels that we historically see. But we do see a little bit of softening and loosening up of the market right now.
Yeah, one of the popular stories here, and again, I don't get too political, but I also have to pay attention to what is going on there. Everybody's a little bit peeved by President Donald Trump calling the Canadians a 51st state. There's been a controversy recently about that with the Panthers. We're not going to get into that tonight. But the fact that there's a lot of uneasiness and unnervousness affects everything more so when you look at the history between Florida and Canada, more so than any other state, because that's a major transplant area. I don't think there's a lot of Canadians as much out in the Tampa Bay area, because that's a predominantly Midwestern area. I know because I graduated from the University of South Florida. But the tendency that you have them on the East Coast, and with this going on, obviously, it's certainly going to rattle a few people and make people a little bit more aware. I think at some point it does calm itself down, because it affects my neck of the woods too. Because if you have tariffs in the auto industry, you have to more or less cushion things there. And again, this is not a political show. I want to reemphasize tonight's South Florida Tribune podcast is all about Barbara Feller talking about, do you want to move to Florida? And she's giving you a lot of good reasons why you should go here. And in a few moments, I'm going to ask her to give you factors about what to do when looking for a home as well. So the whole idea of this show here tonight with Barbara and I is to educate you about South Florida and the Florida market. That's it. Our goal here is to educate, inform, and entertain. Sometimes I can throw out my one-liners and laugh a little bit more than others. Sometimes I get a bit more serious, especially in a situation like this. But you have to be objective in this industry, and you have to make sure you don't have actual errors. And in the case where that realtor made a mistake up in Beaverton, Michigan, where I had to deal with that, well, we got it all worked out through the legal system. But those are things you have to look for when you acquire property. Real estate makes a big difference when it comes to square footage and monetary value. I'm not no math major. Okay, I'm going to be the first to admit it. But here's my first one-liner of the night from Miss Barbara. The only way I got to USF is I remember I had to go ahead and take a math class twice and got a 2.0, and I got a 1.5 at FIU, and USF needed a 2.0 to get in. And what do you think happened? I got in with math. But bear in mind, to my credit, I had a math teacher I had a hard time with at Broward Community College, and I took it again. Luckily, I got smart though, Barbara. I took it on a Wednesday night, so I had to see math once a week, and for 3 hours, had to listen to all that. But it worked out. I got to USF. I'm a proud bull. And, you talk about the Florida Gators. They're a media distribution partner. They're a friend of our company. We have no problem with the Gators. And it just happens I'll be wearing Gator blue tonight because it's working out pretty well anyways. I don't know about the hat if it's close to Gator blue. But the reality is this. You have to go out there and be conscious of what's going on around you in many ways. Real estate is affected by so many areas. And when you talk about politics, you better believe it is in a lot of ways. And that's why I connected the dots a little with tariffs, even though we're not getting elaborate on that. I didn't bring on here to talk about that, but those are things that are around us. Mistakes happen. When you affect math, okay, it's another story. Another story I'm going to give everybody out there watching and listening is many, many years ago to show you my age, okay? I once invested into a Texas Instrument calculator when I was in third grade. I had the thing taken away from me. It was worth $40 at Cunningham Drugs back in Metro Detroit. $40 back in 1973 was a whole lot more money than two simple $20 bills these days, people. Oh, I did get it back, but boy, that was a painful $40. Why am I putting it up there? You can't make any mistakes when it comes to mathematician stuff because it gets really expensive. Little bit of information, Barbara, that you didn't know about here with the Motor City Man Mouth in South Florida. I told you anything goes when you come on these particular shows, and I make no bones about it. It is what it is. All right, final topic of the night. Factors to consider when looking for a home. Put it out there, Barbara.
Okay, well, so there are so many decisions and so many choices when looking for a home. But some of the most important factors to consider is where your home is located, or apartment, condo, townhome, wherever it is you're choosing to live. Proximity to work, to schools, to churches, synagogues, those things that are most important to that you travel to most often. Do you want to be in a new neighborhood, new construction? Do you like the character and charm of being in an older neighborhood that's more mature as far as the homes and the properties and the style and the landscaping? I'm not necessarily saying mature as far as the residences, but the neighborhood itself and its appearance. Is a gated community important? Again, I mentioned the appeal of an older home and the character and charm that goes along with that. How large of a home you want, the size of the property, and very important these days, are you in a flood zone? Is it going to require flood insurance? Do you have risk of when there's just a hard rainstorm that your streets are flooding? Or is it just when we have a hurricane event that we all pretty much have to deal with that excess water and potential flooding? But there's many factors that go into making a home decision, and nothing should be taken lightly. It's something that you really need to think and ponder, and make sure you're making the right home decision. So I wanted to share just a couple things that, Scott, just circling back to what you said about the square footage issue that you had with your home.
Right.
We often hear that real estate is a contract business. So there are, as I mentioned, documents and contracts, legal documents, legally binding documents that are signed when you enter into a home purchase or a sale. And when I say home, again, condo, villa, townhome, real estate. And it's important that every I is dotted, every T is crossed, the proper boxes that need to be checked are checked or unchecked. So again, I'm going back to making sure that you're working alongside a very capable, competent, seasoned real estate agent to guide you properly and make sure that there aren't any mistakes or unknowns that are left out there and not properly and timely addressed. And then one other thing, you referenced again our potential 51st state, but just the uncertainty that the environment in which we're living in right now. So just to share one statistic, a recent study came out that 32% of people that are planning a major purchase this year are delaying those purchases, including 22% who are looking to buy a home. And what impacts our market even more, 13% who are planning to sell their home. So it makes, housing choices a little bit even more limited. So food for thought.
Wow, that's good food for thought. A couple of things I want to mention as well is one thing when you look about real estate and square footage, but bear in mind you could have 1,500 square feet, but if it's laid out properly, it almost looks like 2,000 square feet. You don't have the benefit of a basement down here, so you have to maximize what you have. I haven't seen a lot of closets for jackets. Then again, you don't need them anyway, so what's the difference?
No coat closets necessary.
Yeah, no, that's true. But then another thing I should also point out too, that I like gated communities and I like to be near an interstate. When I go for a hotel, 90% of the time, get me near an interstate so I can put my foot on the gas and be the interstate intimidator where I need to get to places. But that always doesn't mean everything to everybody else. But I do know that there's certain places, if you like the country, near the Everglades or whatever, it's one thing. But I like to be near an interstate where it's centrally located after a long day's work. And you get home pretty quickly. But it's to each its own. So when you talk about square footage, don't let that mislead you a little bit out there, because you have 1,500 square feet to look like 2,000, depending on the way the property is actually laid out. I think that's a one big fathoms out there about real estate that I've noticed when I've looked for property as well. So glad to have Barbara Feller on here tonight, South Florida Tribune Podcast, just to repeat her credentials a little bit as we get ready for the Sports Exchange at the top of the hour. Barbara Feller is a 2023 top producer for Fathom Fort Lauderdale and 2024 Q4 top producer for Fathom Fort Lauderdale. Barbara is equipped with some pretty good credentials. If you want to reach her, you can reach her at the South Florida Tribune at gmail.com. If you, in addition to her information, which is about to repeat in 2 moments, and I've been promising everybody this all night because even though she's too young to know about the Islanders, we'll do it again. The Florida Panthers lead the Toronto Maple Leafs 4-0. That score is 4:52 left in the second period. Been keeping them all night. We'll probably have a final score with the Sports Exchange later, but since this is a South Florida related podcast, I feel it's necessary to make sure that those fans that are watching us and not paying attention to the Panthers get those necessary local updates as well. So I just want to incorporate them. And I know one thing I never planned to talk about was the 51st state, but sometimes you have to be aware of everything around you, local and national news. And I think that there's a lot of variables and factors that come into play when you look into things. It just so happens to be one of those things that people in our particular area end up having to deal with. And I'm sure whether it sorts itself out or not, you can't not dodge facts. You have to confront them face to face and let the chip fall where they fall. And that's why we're putting it out there. So Barbara, what I want you to do kindly is why don't you put all your name up there and your phone number, Katie, and we'll wrap it up with a final station break. Once again, Sports Exchange at the top of the hour. Hockey Operations LLC is our sponsor for tonight's show, starring Barbara Feller. All I am is just a pilot, making sure that this ship doesn't sink, and it looks like we're still sailing right now. Barbara, take it away. Give them your information, email, and whatever you want to do. LinkedIn and all that, put it out there.
Glad to know we are still afloat, Scott. So again, Barbara Feller, residential realtor. I serve Broward and South Palm Beach County. I have an extensive network of agents that I work with, not only throughout the state of Florida, but nationally. I'm with a cloud-based national brokerage, so I am able to connect you with agents that you might need in other parts of the country. I'm also affiliated with the Tampa Bay area MLS, so I'm able to assist you in that area as well. As Scott mentioned, top producing agent in 2023 in my brokerage, and ranked right up there in 2024 as well. And hopefully I'll have the same statistics in 2025. My clients are 100% referral based, repeat clients. And the best part of my work is those clients are now my friends. So I love working alongside people as they're making their next steps in their real estate journey. And I promise to make that process and oftentimes traumatic, emotional transaction a smooth and very rewarding process as you make your next real estate move. And my tagline is that I promise results that move you, and I do. So please feel free to reach out at your convenience. My contact information is up there. My phone number, 954-816-4900. I'm always happy to help. Look forward to hearing from anybody. Thank you.
Well, I'm glad you did your first podcast. I definitely have no doubt in my mind that you passed this one with flying colors.
Well,
You
thank
really
you.
did. Yeah, I told you it wasn't a big deal. All you had to do was put up with my crazy demeanor, and I think you handled it pretty well. Really, seriously, really, I'm doing something other than sports. But I'm going to tell you one thing. In February, I had a young lady by the name of Rachel Galvin on. I did a show with her, and she's a great friend, and she is actually an actress who I work with at the Deerfield Beach Observer, and we were teammates over there, and she had to put on a great show. And obviously, I'm hoping that she'll probably edit a couple of my future books as well. So, for those of you who wonder why I'm willing, I really, seriously, really, yes, folks, I'm not a one-trick pony. I like to go all over the place, whether it's inside sports, because the one thing is consistent, regardless of what you're doing, the 5 W's and 1 H, who, what, when, where, why, and how. And if that isn't good enough, you better understand what the letters STP stand for. STP is the oil that keeps motor going, and STP is slow down, think, proceed. That's what Barbara Feller does all the time when she guides her clients, and that's what I do, trying to run a network among other things as well. That's why we bring you this presentation. No, regardless of what the show, we give it everything we've got, and that's what we're doing. Barbara passed with flying colors. She gets an A today, and hopefully it is. And I look forward to realizing that networking is powerful. That's why I enjoy going to our Thursday group at the chamber, as well as the other networking groups that I belong to as well. And this is the power of networking, people. I talk about that and lessons from the microphone. So if you get that, I'm going to go to one final station break. Then we're going to get ready for the sports exchange at the top of the hour. Candy, take it away.
You are listening to the South Florida Tribune YouTube channel. If you see that red subscribe button, hit it, like us, share it with all your friends and family. The South Florida Tribune Publishing Company published a book, Lessons from the Microphone, Tuning into the Enduring Wisdom of Visionary Leaders. It is written by your host, Scott, the Motor City Madmouth Morganroth. Talks about his 40 plus years in the industry and how media has changed and evolved over that time. You can get your copy today on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Kindle, Google, and Apple Books. There's also a link on our website, www.southfloridatribune.com, where there is a plethora of other great content, so go check it out. If you like to listen to podcasts, you can find us wherever you get your podcast. Monday nights, we talk baseball. Tuesday nights, we talk football. Wednesday and Thursday nights, you just never know what we're talking about. So tune in to find out. If you want to advertise, like Hockey Operations LLC presented this show, you can do the same. Just call Scott, 954-304-4941. And if you want to be a guest or have topic ideas, you can always email us at southfloridatribune@gmail.com. Back to you, Scott.
All right, well, that does it for this edition of South Florida Tribune Podcast. Not so bad. Brian says it's a great show. Barbara, so there you go. And I'm sure that we'll probably get some favorable comments as well. A lot of people realize that we do broadcast on Twitter, LinkedIn, which obviously is a big resource for me, Facebook, you name it, and we have a big Google presence. And now you have opportunities to experience the fact that at least you finally went out there and had an opportunity to go on the first show. But I have a feeling, Barbara, with what you presented tonight, it will not be your last podcast. I'm just honored. And I happen to be the first one that you went on, but you did a really good job. All you did was sit back.
So now I'm experienced. So thank you.
How do you feel now? You got that first one out of the way.
I got it down. It was all good. It was all good.
I'm telling you, Barbara, I knew you were great from the minute I presented you with this idea. And I don't have an ego. I don't really care. I've only developed 9 million people, but as far as I'm concerned, I tell people that no, I'm not. I hate to use Aaron Rodgers for analogies, but I have no choice to do it. Relax, and that's exactly what you presented tonight. You presented the information nice and clean, and you know what? If I talk too fast, no problem. Go ahead and listen and watch his broadcast again. You can go out there and take your notepad, your pen, paper, whatever, and jot these notes down because they're invaluable information. Everybody needs a place to live, right? Barbara Feller gave you lots of great points to do it. So that does it tonight for the South Florida Tribune podcast. On behalf of Barbara Feller, my name is Scott Morgan, the Motor City Madmouth, not the realtor she is. All I am is a broadcaster saying good night. Course exchange at the top of the hour. We'll catch you in just a few minutes. If you haven't had enough of me, don't worry. You're going to get a whole lot more because we got a loaded show with a lot of new wrinkles. Good night, everybody. Barbara, thanks for having me on the South Florida Tribune podcast. Good
Thank
night,
you
everybody.
for having me, Scott.
You're welcome.